What carries oxygen around the body? Uh, are they? Is it plasma? Is it red blood cells? Is it platelets? Is it white blood cells? So it's a quiz where we are trying to do some revision about transport and blood vessels. So in this case, we have blood where we have different types of blood, components of blood, blood vessels, and all that stuff. So most of you have passed this. The answer is red blood cells transport oxygen around the body. So the next question in the making is, I think 12 of you passed it. One person failed. Oh, that's so bad. Next. What causes the blood to be the distinct red in red color? That's a very good question. What makes blood to be in that red color? Uh, so, Bereth, I don't know what you've given us. Wow. Everyone has passed it. Hemoglobin. So, people think it's oxygen, it's hormones. Hemoglobin causes the blood to be the distinctive red. Why? Because hemoglobin, we are all aware that for it is responsible for carrying. It's a pigment responsible for carrying blood. So hemoglobin is a conjugated protein where we have heme, which is iron, and globin, the protein. So their role is to uh, transport oxygen around the body. So everyone passes this question. I appreciate. We got the next one. Hmm. Which of the following is not a type of blood vessel? Which of the following is not a type of blood vessel? It's a good question. Oh, everyone is done. That's beautiful. We have what we call Bereth. You must have failed this. Which of the following is not a type of blood vessel? We know arteries are blood vessels, capillaries are blood vessels, uh, and then veins are blood vessels, but ventricles are not blood vessels. So the answer lies in ventricles. So ventricles are not blood vessels. So let's proceed. Thank you. What is the function, in bracket, the job of the platelets? That's a question everyone needs to answer. What is the function or job of platelets? Function or job of platelets? Function or job of platelets? What do you know? Uh, so, are platelets responsible for producing antibodies? No. Do they carry dissolved sugars? No. Do they transport oxygen? Yes. They transport, no. To form clots, that is scabs when you have a cut and grazes, yes. Platelets are responsible for causing blood to clot. You remember when you happen to have a blood, you have a cut or a damage or a tissue, we have platelets. Platelets are in the form of thrombocytes. When the tissue is damaged, platelets get exposed to air together with the calcium ions and vitamin K. They form calcium ions and vitamin K plus enzyme thrombokinase. They convert a soluble protein known as prothrombin to an insoluble protein known as thrombin. So thrombin converts another soluble protein known as fibrin to fibrin fibers, which fibrin fibers form scabs or network of fibers around the wound and prevents blood from oozing out. So platelets' role is to form clots, which is the first step towards healing. Thank you. Next question. What is the function? Oh, what is the function or job of white blood cells? Are white blood cells, are they to transport oxygen around the body? No. Are they to carry out dissolved sugars? No. Or to clot and cover wounds like cuts and grazes? No. To release antibodies to help destroy infections? Yes. We have two types of white blood cells. We have the phagocytes and the lymphocytes. Our phagocytes, these are white blood cells that are basically found in blood, and their role is to engulf any dissolved bacteria. They are not specific in defense. Then we come to the lymphocytes, which grow and differentiate into two. The T lymphocytes, which are the lymphocytes that grow into the thymus gland, and the B lymphocytes, which differentiate and grow into the bone marrows. But the B lymphocytes are responsible for producing antibodies. So the antibodies are specific on a given kind of disease, or they are specific on a given kind of pathogen on which they defend the body. Therefore, that is how the answer becomes antibodies. It becomes release of antibodies to help destroy infections. Thank you. Next question. What is the job or function of plasma? For starters, we all know plasma is a pale yellow fluid which is responsible. Plasma is a pale yellow fluid that is responsible for causing blood, that contains different components of blood. For example, it contains water, contains vitamins, it contains hormones, heat, urea, glucose, proteins, and then also contains, it's, the biggest percentage is water. So, what's the function of plasma? So plasma's role is to carry or dissolve nutrients and sugars. Yeah, that's the role. So it doesn't transport oxygen. No, it doesn't transport oxygen. No, it doesn't produce antibodies. But it contains antibodies within. So its role is to carry dissolved nutrients and sugars around the body and distribute them. So that's how plasma functions. Next question is what's the job of the red blood cells? We just mentioned this earlier. We said that red blood cells are cells which are responsible for causing blood, for transportation of blood around the body. And we said red blood cells, how are they adapted to their function? They have the following adaptations as you answer. The first adaptation is they transport, they contain a biconcave structure that increases on the surface area for transportation or absorption of the gas. Number two, they contain a pigment known as hemoglobin, which is responsible for absorption, which has a high ability for transportation of oxygen around the body. Number five, it has no nucleus, which creates a space for transportation. It creates a space for transportation, space for transportation of oxygen. And therefore, it also has a thin membrane for easy diffusion of the gas. Therefore, the biggest function is to transport oxygen around the body and the muscles. Next question. Which blood vessel takes blood to the heart? Now, we have different blood vessels. Remember, we have the difference between arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, and veins carry blood towards the heart. The biggest artery in the body is the aorta, and the biggest vein in the body is the vena cava. So, which blood vessels take blood to the heart? They are supposed to be veins. Veins, yes, they are supposed to be veins. Blood vessels, they are veins that carry blood towards the heart, because it's through the heart that blood can be transported to the rest of the body, to the lungs to pick oxygen. So people mistake the heart to be in charge of oxygenation of blood, which is very wrong. Blood does not oxygenate blood. The heart. The heart's role is to pump blood. So the veins carry blood towards the heart, and arteries carry blood away from the heart. That's why pulmonary artery carries blood away from the heart, and that's deoxygenated blood from the right ventricles to the pulmonary artery, via pulmonary artery to the lungs to pick oxygen. And because veins carry blood towards the heart, so that's why pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atria of the heart, because blood is returning to the heart for a second time to be pumped out of the heart to the rest of the body system. So that makes very good sense for whoever that wants to learn this. Thank you. Next question. Which blood vessel take blood away from the heart? Yes. So now this one explains my previous answer. The blood vessels that takes blood away from the heart is what we call the it's what we call the arteries. Oh, arteries. Arteries carry blood towards the heart, and veins carry blood. Yes, arteries carry blood away from the heart, sorry, and veins carry blood towards the heart. So the blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart, veins away from the heart, are arteries. That's why pulmonary artery is the only artery that carries deoxygenated blood. All arteries carry oxygenated blood apart from pulmonary artery, because a pulmonary artery is one that is carrying the only blood going away from the heart that is not deoxygenated, that is deoxygenated, is via the pulmonary artery to the lungs. So That's why we get this answer the way it is. Oh, beautiful. What is the smallest of the three blood vessels? The blood vessels, which one is the smallest? Remember the blood vessels we have veins subdivided into venules and specifically go to what we call capillaries. So capillaries are responsible for transporting blood along tissues because they are very minute and they can allow blood to ooze out of them into the tissues. And then from capillaries, we have the arterioles, from arterioles into the arteries. So the smallest of the kind are capillaries. That's beautiful. So the next equation would be going to, it is going to some other parts. I'm trying to do some explanation. What type of blood do the arteries usually carry? That takes me back to what I've been explaining. As long as we are discussing blood capillaries, I will repeat them for clarity and understanding. So the type of blood the arteries usually carry is oxygenated blood, because oxygenated blood is the one that the heart pumps to the rest of the body tissues via systemic circulation, and therefore arteries carry blood away from the heart. So they normally carry blood away from the heart. So they are arteries that do this. Arteries uh, carry oxygenated blood apart from pulmonary artery, depending on the previous explanation I gave. Thank you for this. Let's go to another question. Oxygenated blood. Beautiful. So the next question is gonna be which blood vessel has valves to prevent the backflow of blood? Which blood vessel has valves to prevent the backflow of blood? The blood vessels that have valves are known as veins. So, because veins carry blood with low pressure, so chances are high that blood may move backwards. So, blood vessels that have blood, that have valves are veins. However, even some arteries, like a pulmonary artery and aorta, at their best, they have valves known as the semilunar valves. Their role is to prevent the backflow of blood as the ventricles are trying to do a ventricular diastole, that is when they are relaxing, blood that is pumped out of their heart into them may come back. So, to prevent the coming back of blood from those two arteries, we happen to have the semilunar valves. So, the role of semilunar valves at the start of arteries is not within arteries, but at the start of pulmonary artery in the right hand part of the heart, and aorta in the left hand part of the heart. Those ones are there to prevent the backflow of blood. However, arteries, their role is they don't have valves, unlike as it is in pulmonary, in veins. So this gives us, so veins have valves, arteries don't. Next question. Next question, which is going to be, what is blood made of? That's the question. As you can see in this picture, what is blood made of? What is blood made of? Yes. So if you look at blood, what is blood made of? What is blood made of? Remember, we said blood is made up of 55% plasma and 45% blood cells. So what is blood made of? 55% plasma, 45% blood vessels. So as you can see, blood is made up of plasma, blood cells, white blood cells, and all that stuff. So everyone passes that. Wow, this makes a very good learning environment for you kids. You are nice. I appreciate you. Thank you. Next is gonna be another question. Also, that is, we still do plasma, and this can help us to understand what plasma is. So, if you look at blood very well, blood is made up of this pale yellow fluid is plasma, which is 55%. Then in the middle here, we have the blood cells, other blood cells. Then the lower biggest part here, 45%, are red blood cells. So this gives us an understanding of how this blood is made. So when you centrifuge this blood and break it down into its components, so the components look like this. The components, the biggest percentage is plasma. This plasma, we shall find antibodies. In this plasma, we shall find uh, we shall find we shall find water, we shall find mineral ions, we shall find urea, we shall find glucose, we shall find proteins, we shall find heat, we shall find all dissolved the substances that are found in blood. But when you got the other 45% of corpuscles, you find that white blood cells and platelets make 1% of the blood cells. 1%, as you can see this blue part. And then red blood cells, they make 45% of the cells which are found in blood. So that is how what blood is made up of. So the biggest percentage, so this is what we see. So what is plasma? Plasma is a pale yellow fluid. Pale yellow fluid, which is made pale yellow fluid. It's a pale yellow fluid. Pale yellow fluid. Pale yellow fluid, which is made up of water and the rest of the components minus blood. The fluid minus blood vessels, blood cells. Thank you for that. Let's go to another one. Next question is, let's pay attention, let's watch it, and let's discuss it as well. What cell engulfs and digests bacterial pathogens? So this takes us to the other explanation I gave, that blood cells are of two types. We have the phagocytes and the lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are found in the lymphatic system and they're supposed to produce antibodies. Phagocytes are these blood cells which are responsible for engulfing and attacking bacteria. So the phagocytes, in this case, they are the ones that are playing for us this business. However, let's see which answers are available. Phagocytes, very good. Thank you. Let's go to another question. Lymphocytes produce white antibodies. So phagocytes are responsible for fighting. They are not specific. They are in immunity. We call it non-specific cell-mediated immunity, which is non-specific. So phagocytes just attack any bacteria that may escape with food or may be found in a body. Yes. So next question is going to be which cells release antibodies to the blood? That's what I've just been explaining before. Which cells release antibodies to the blood? That's what I mentioned and said. They are called lymphocytes, which produce antibodies. So lymphocytes are of two types. We have the B lymphocytes, which grow from the bone marrows, and the T lymphocytes, which grow from the thymus glands, and they are all responsible for defending the body. That is now specific immunity. Specific immunity. So you can see B lymphocytes are the ones which are responsible. We can go to the next equation after this, which says, oh, this is the last question. You want to end the quiz? Oh, wow, congratulations. That is the last question on the quiz. So I hope it's been nice and it's beautiful. If you really need it, you need more of these lessons, you can always ask us to do it more.